Lena stood on the observation deck of the Vega station, her eyes tracing the faint glow of the Corinthia colony below. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, as if she could feel its heartbeat through the barrier. Every evening for the last 3 months, she came here and watched the lights flicker. Once, she and her childhood friend Marisol had explored those streets together. Now Marisol lived there, and Lena felt a hollow ache each time she remembered their laughter. In the mess hall, Lena saw other officers joking over steaming mugs of tea, planning weekend outings underwater on Europa or low-gravity races on Titan's ice plains. Lena forced a smile, but she felt like a ghost in her own life. She had volunteered for space duty to follow her dream of discovery, yet her heart stayed back on Corinthia with Marisol. They had promised to keep in touch, but time zones, duty, shifts, and failing comlinks left Lena waiting for replies that never came. Each night, Lena wrote long messages in her private log. She described the station's new hydroponic garden, the sight of a rogue comet passing close enough to see its icy tail, the strange beauty of solar flares painting the station's hull in shifting colors. But she never sent those logs. Fear gripped her. What if Marisol thought her life boring? What if Marisol had moved on and forgotten their friendship? One evening, Chief Engineer Raj brought Lena a noisy repair drone. "It needs a test run," he said, handing it to her. Lena nodded, though her mind was elsewhere. She guided the drone through the corridors, its servos whirring like a curious animal. An idea sparked in her mind. She could use the drone to deliver a message directly to Corinthia. She could record her voice, send the drone through the station's relay towers, and hope the signal reached Marisol's doorstep. Lena spent the next 2 nights tinkering with the drone's transmitter. She learned new coding tricks, rewrote firmware, and tested various antennas. The station's engineers offered advice about calibrating frequencies and boosting signal strength. Lena watched them teach her, and she felt a surge of pride. She was learning, solving problems, mastering technology. That was her HFY moment, her human spark shining in a sea of machines. Finally, the drone stood ready on the launch pad. Lena recorded her message in simple words. She missed Marisol, cherished their memories, and wanted to know if her friend missed her too. She added a playful promise. If Marisol replied, Lena would paint the station's garden with flowers from Corinthian, no matter how many cargo bays it took. Lena initiated the launch. The drone lifted off, weaving past observation windows and hydroponic bays until it slipped free into open space. Lena watched the relay satellites align and lock onto the drone's signal. For a blinking moment, everything was silent. Then the COM console flickered, and a text appeared. Message received. Lena's heart skipped. The station alarms blared a gentle tone to warn of inbound data. Her terminal pinged with an incoming transmission. Lena held her breath as she clicked play. Marisol's face shimmered on the screen, framed by Corinthia's warm lights. Her eyes widened in surprise, then softened with joy. "Lena," she said, voice trembling, "I got your message. I've missed you too. Life here got busy, new projects, new friends, but I never forgot you. I'm sorry I let time slip away." Tears stung Lena's eyes, and she wiped them hastily. "I understand," she replied. "I missed you too. I was afraid you didn't care." Lena summoned courage. "I want us to reconnect. I'll come. Home on leave next cycle. Will you meet me at the old plaza? We can watch the twin moons rise together." Marisol smiled and nodded. "Yes, I'll be there, I promise." Where she paused, then added, "Human spirit is amazing. Even across space, we find each other." Lena felt warmth spread through her chest. The drone's mission had worked. Her hope had reached distant stars. The screen went dark, and Lena sat for a moment, processing the glow in her heart. Around her, the Vega station hummed with life. She realized she was not alone in her longing, and her actions had bridged the silence between worlds. Lena stood, her shoulders straight, and returned the drone to Chief Engineer Raj with a triumphant grin.
Yes.
"Mission accomplished," she said simply. Later, Lena walked back to the observation deck. The Corinthia lights still shimmered, but now they felt close, friendly. Lena pressed her palm to the glass again, but this time she smiled. She had faced her fear, taken action, and found hope. Her human determination had carried her through. When next she saw Marisol, their bond would be stronger proof that no distance, however vast, could break the ties of friendship when hope and courage guided the way. Jade stood at the edge of the biodome's sea bay on New Terra, watching the artificial waves lap against the glass barrier. In the distance, the colony's lights winked like fireflies under the planet's twin suns. Every evening since her brother Marco left for the Mars terraforming cores, she had come here to remember. Their afternoons playing in the tide pools. Now, the dome felt too big and too empty without him. Inside the dormitory, Jade tried to fill her hours with study and exercise drills. She logged data on the sea creature breeding tanks and plotted habitat expansions with her team. At each time she opened her comm channel, she froze, unsure what to say. Marco's schedule was packed, and his tone polite but distant. She replayed their last conversation when he mentioned new duties, new friends, and a busy life, terraforming red deserts. Jade felt a pang. Had she slipped from his thoughts already? That night, Jade stayed late in the genetics lab. She stared at the DNA sequencer screen until the soft hum of machinery became a lullaby. She thought of Marco's laugh when he first saw the lab's glowing petri dishes. She closed her eyes, imagining him beside her, marveling at the tiny life forms they nurtured together. Her chest tightened with longing. She missed his steady presence.
Addie!
The emptiness in her heart reminded her she had to try something bold, too. Bridge the gap. The next morning, Jade visited the colony's arts center. Holographic painters were recording memories for new arrivals. An idea flickered. She could paint a memory of her and Marco exploring New Terra's shore. She signed up and loaded her personal holodisk. Over the day, she directed the artist program to recreate the warm sand beneath their feet. Their joyful shouts as they chased slimy tide creatures in the sun setting in ribbons of orange and pink. Each brushstroke was a piece of her hope. When the painting finished, Jade held her breath. The Holocene came alive in the gallery, two small figures racing along turquoise water, arms outstretched, faces alight with wonder. Bystanders stopped to watch. Some whispered about childhood joys. Others nodded at the pure happiness captured. Jade felt tears prick her eyes, but these were tears of warmth, not cold distance. She had honored their bond in a way words alone could not. Jade arranged for the holomemory to be sent to Marco's cum address on Mars. She wrote a short note. For you, my brother, our happiest days, shared again. Her fingers trembled as she pressed send. Immediately, a confirmation ping replied. Transmission received. Jade's heart fluttered, equal parts excitement and fear. Would Marco watch it? Would it remind him of her? Or would he dismiss it as a childish art prank? Late that night, Jade lay in bed, scrolling through colony logs to distract herself. The hologallery had featured her memory, and many colonists had left encouraging notes. Yet Jade felt something was missing until her cum console lit up with a live video call from Mars. Marco's face filled the small screen, surprised eyes framed by dusty red smudges. Hey Jay, he said softly. I saw your holomemory. I didn't expect that. Jade's chest loosened. She sat up. You watched it, she whispered. Marco nodded, rubbing his temple. I've been so caught up in projects. Forgot what home feels like. Seeing us on the beach, it reminded me of why we do this work. To make new worlds feel like home. I'm sorry I've been distant. Relief washed over Jade. I missed you, she said simply. I didn't know how to reach you. Marco smiled. You found the perfect way. Let's talk every week, no excuses, Jade agreed. They scheduled a regular call, promising to share memories, dreams, and daily stories. In that instant, distance melted away. The next evening, Jade returned to the biodome's sea bay. This time she held a small hollow projector. She placed it on the ledge and activated it. Marco's face beamed back at her, framed by Mars's rust-colored horizon. They laughed as they described their days, her work with sea creatures, his triumphs with soil oxidation. Together, they watched the artificial waves and the real stars united by hope and human ingenuity. Jade closed the call with a smile that filled the dome with light. She pressed her hand to the glass once more, but this time she felt connected, not hollow. She had used her creativity, her determination, and her heart, her very human strengths too. Rebuild a bridge across millions of miles. New Terra's twin suns still shone, but Jade's inner light shone brighter, proof that no matter how far, hope and action can bring loved ones together again. Captain Elias Reed floated in the survey ship's observation chamber, staring at the ribbon of stars outside the hull. He pressed his forehead against the glass, trying to feel close to Earth. Ever since his friend and mentor, Dr. Sophia Lynn, moved to Mars to lead the new terraforming project, Elias felt a quiet ache in his chest. He missed her clear laugh and her proud nod when he solved a tough problem. He wanted to talk to her, but every message felt too small for all the things he had to say. In the narrow corridors of the Andromeda Explorer, Elias passed by teams of technicians calibrating sensors and navigating charts of gas giants. He joined. Their chatter tried to smile, but inside his thoughts drifted back to Sophia's farewell embrace 3 months ago. She had pressed a silver pen into his hand. "Write me," she said. "Show me your discoveries. I will always answer." Elias smiled then, but now each message he sent felt like a whisper in a hurricane. He worried that his words were lost in the void between them. One evening, Elias took out the silver pen and a blank holopad. He sat at the small desk in his cabin and stared at the empty screen. He began to write, "Dear Sophia, I saw a ring of ice crystals around Epsilon Prime." He stopped. The words looked thin and pale. He tapped the pad and deleted the whole message. Tried again. "I solved the plasma fluctuation problem." He paused. Would she care? Would she even read it? He felt his heart sink. Pressed his palm to the desk and closed his eyes. He needed something more. The next morning, Elias met with Chief Engineer Ramos in the engine room. The air smelled of oil and ozone. "I have an idea," Elias said. He drew a rough sketch of a small probe shaped like a paper crane. "We can launch it through the solar flare vents near Beta Hydrae. It will catch the charged particles and light up in rainbow colors. We can program it to beam a message back to Mars, a living sign in space." Ramos nodded thoughtfully. "It's risky, but human minds love beauty and wonder. It might reach your heart." Over the next 2 days, Elias and Ramos worked side by side. They bent sheet metals, soldered circuits, and polished mirrors. The crew watched them with curiosity. Some offered help with code, others measured power output as they built the tiny probe. Elias felt a spark of hope grow in him, remembered Sophia's passion for art and science. He remembered how she said humans could leave marks of wonder on any world. This was his chance to show what humanity could do. On launch day, the survey crew gathered in the control room. The solar vents glowed ahead, bright lines of charged particles dancing in space. Elias guided the probe along the channel. It soared through the stream and burst into color like a comet made of prisms. The lights pulsed in patterns Morse code translated into a shimmering ballet. Elias watched the data feed display each line of code he had written. "Sophia, I miss your voice. Look for me in every new dawn." Back in his cabin, Elias received a confirmation ping. The probe had bounced the signal off a satellite relay and beamed it to Mars. His heart thumped. He sent a simple text. Message launched. He waited. "I'm stretched." He told himself to stay calm. He paced the narrow length of his cabin and studied the holopad. Minutes felt like hours. Then the pad beeped with a new incoming message. Elias tapped the icon. Sophia's face appeared, bathed in the red glow of Martian sunset. Her eyes were bright with wonder. "Elias," she said softly. Her message found me in the middle of a field survey. I saw the colors in my sky. She held up a small recording of the probe's light show. "It made me cry. You turned a piece of metal into hope. That is so human, so beautiful." Elias let out a breath he did not realize he held. He smiled until his cheeks stung. "I wanted you to know I think of you every day," he said. "Wanted to share something new, something alive." Sophia nodded. "You did more than that." showed me our spirit, our light in the darkness. She paused, then added, I have missed you too.
Next cycle.
I will send a rover to pick you up. We will explore new worlds together. Elias felt joy bloom inside him like a new star forming. He looked out at the unending night of space. He realized that no matter how far apart they were, their human strength, curiosity, creativity, hope could build bridges across the galaxy. He pressed his hand to the glass and whispered, I'll be there soon. In the days that followed, Elias returned to his duties with renewed energy. He navigated nebulae, charted magnetic storms, and logged his findings in detailed reports. But now, each entry began with a line for Sophia. Here is a new discovery. He wrote directly into the holopad pen she had given him. And every evening, he watched the stars, knowing that somewhere beyond the red plains of Mars, Sophia watched back. Their bond was stronger than any distance. Proof that human hope and ingenuity could keep hearts connected across the stars. Asterisk Lila stood alone in the red-dusted greenhouse under the Martian dome. Rows of pale green seedlings stretched toward the grow lights, but her heart felt empty. Her partner Arjun had left for the Titan research habitat 6 months ago, and each day since had felt quieter than the last.
Ow.
She watered the plants and checked nutrient levels, but the silence between herself and Arjun grew with every turned page in her cum log. She missed his warm laugh and gentle confidence, but she did not know how to reach him. Each evening, Lila watched the sun sink behind Olympus Mons. She sent short messages to Arjun. Good morning, how are you? But replies came, late or not at all. Sometimes she rewrote her notes again and again, hoping the right words would spark his interest. Still, the distance felt like an unbreachable canyon of dusty red stone. Lila felt sad. She wanted to reconnect, but her messages felt thin and unseen in the vast network that linked Mars and Saturn's moon. One night, as Lila inspected her bioluminescent algae culture, an idea flickered. The algae glowed softly in deep blue-green. When she fed it a special nutrient mix, what if she could use those living lights to send a message? She cleared a space on the greenhouse ceiling and shaped several transparent panels into a grid. In each cell, she placed a drop of algae. If she could control which cells glowed, she could form letters and images. Over the next 2 days, Lila worked tirelessly. She recalibrated the algae's nutrient injector and wrote simple code to pulse each panel on and off. The first test lit a block of 3 cells. Lila held her breath. Then the cells blinked high in glowing blue-green letters. Her chest tightened with hope. Humanity had thrived by using creativity and resourcefulness. This was her HFY moment. She smiled at the soft glow, feeling a spark in her lonely world. Lila recorded a short video. The panels spelled Arjun, miss you in warm biolights. She added a small smiley face made of pulsing dots. Then she compressed the file and launched it into the CUM satellite network. The station's uplink hummed and hummed. Lila watched the progress bar inch forward as she paced the greenhouse floor. At last, the final byte sent, and the console logged transmission complete. The next day, Lila checked her CUM logs again and saw a note, video received. Her heart jumped, but no playback file had arrived yet. She waited, tending the seedlings, pruning leaves, feeding algae. The panels above her head pulsed softly in their grid, waiting for her next idea. She whispered to the plants, hope he likes the show. She imagined Arjun watching, his eyes lighting up at her effort and kindness. That evening, Lila's console beeped with an incoming video. She clicked play and gasped. Arjun's face appeared, bathed in the golden light of Titan's hazy sky. Behind him, a similar grid of bioluminescent moss panels spelled Lila. Miss you too, waved a smile bright enough to warm the icy station. He held up a small jar of glowing spores' own living message. Your light reached me, he said, voice thick with emotion. I wanted to send mine back. Lila felt tears fill her eyes. She pressed her hand to the glass wall of the greenhouse, feeling closer to Arjun than ever before. I love it, she whispered. I love you. He laughed softly. Let's make this a weekly show, he said. I'll send new patterns from Titan's dome. You send yours here. We'll fill 2 worlds with our lights." In the days that followed, Leela and Arjun exchanged living messages across the void. Leela programmed her algae to bloom in swirling shapes of hearts and stars. Arjun replied with waves of glowing moss that danced like northern lights. Their bright patterns became a ritual, lighting up their lonely stations and reminding them of home. Other colonists began to watch too, sending messages of friendship and hope. The sky grids became a human story written in living light. One evening, Lila walked through the greenhouse as the algae spelled out soon together, deep warmth in her chest. The red planet's cold wind could not touch her inside. She had faced loneliness and sadness and found a way to reconnect. Her human spirit, her creativity, determination, and hope had bridged millions of kilometers of space. Lila knew that soon, she and Arjun would stand together again beneath these glowing panels. Proof that no distance could dim the light of human love. Kai stood on the frozen plain outside Europa Station, the pale light of Jupiter looming overhead. He wrapped his heavy gloves tighter around the rail and stared at the distant glow of Earth far off in the black sky. His childhood friend, Mara, had moved home to Earth 6 months ago. Since then, each day felt colder than the one before. Kai missed Mara's easy laughter and the way she always understood his quiet moods. He felt sad and alone. Back inside the station's workshop, Kai tried to focus on his tasks. He repaired robotic arms, calibrated sensors, and tested ice drilling drills. Yet every time he heard the hissing of hydraulics, he wished Mara stood beside him, cracking jokes about the squeaky joints. He opened his pad and stared at Mara's name. He typed hi, then erased it. He tried again. "How are you?" He deleted once more. His messages felt empty, too small against the vast space between them. That evening, Kai walked through the hydroponic bay. Green plants climbed along metal trellises under grow lights. He paused by a row of tall ferns and closed his eyes. On Earth, Mara had loved these plants. She said they reminded her of her mother's garden back home. A seed of hope grew in Kai's mind. What if he could send Mara something alive, a piece of Europa itself, to show he still cared? He watched the fern's fronds sway in the gentle airflow and knew he had to try. Over the next 3 days, Kai worked late into each night. He built a sealed pod from clear polycarbon panels. Inside, he placed special algae and moss that glowed under UV light. He rigged tiny pumps to feed nutrients and keep the air fresh. Then he added a small speaker connected to the station's uplink. His plan was simple. The pod would drift into space on a cargo rocket used for supplies. When it reached Earth orbit, the pod would glow and play recorded messages, Mara's name, Kai's voice, and the soft hum of Europa's ice quakes. While he programmed the speaker, other engineers peeked into the workshop. Some asked questions. Kai showed them the pod and explained his plan. They offered advice about power usage and data compression. He learned new coding methods from the communications officer, and the botanist helped him choose the best algae strain. Each bit of help reminded Kai that humans work best together, even across worlds. His HFY moment glowed brighter. He was not alone in his hope. Launch day arrived. The cargo rocket's engines rumbled as it sat on the pad. Kai guided the pod into the cargo bay, securing it with straps. He pressed his hand to the smooth panel and whispered, "Take my hope with you." The rocket blasted off, leaving Europa. Stationed in a plume of frosty vapor, Kai watched the blue and green pod shrink until it vanished into the stars. Back at his cabin, Kai scanned the logs. He waited for the pod to reach Earth orbit and connect to the relay network. Oars crawled by. He paced the small room, replayed old messages from Mara, and stared at his reflection in the window. Doubt settled in his chest. What if the pod failed? What if Mara never saw it? Just as he began to lose hope, his pad buzzed. An incoming video file had just arrived from the pod's uplink. With trembling fingers, Kai opened it. The screen showed a starry backdrop, then the pod drifting past Earth's curvature, glowing in soft green and blue light. A gentle voice rang out. "Mara, this is Kai. I miss you." A heartbeat later, Kai's own voice followed. "I built this pod to share a piece of Europa with you. I hope it makes you smile." The message repeated the sound of distant ice cracking under pressure, the melody of the station's life support. Tears blurred Kai's vision. Then the video shifted. Shmara's face appeared, framed by the dusty red soil of her hometown. She held a small replica of the glowing algae pod in her hands. She said, voice warm and bright. I saw your gift. It arrived in the experimental lab today. You brought Europa's life to me. I never stopped missing you. She panned the camera to show rows of seedlings under UV lights. Mara had begun her own garden. I planted the spores you sent. They thrive here, just like our friendship. Kai pressed his hand to his heart. He felt warmth spread through him, melting the loneliness of the frozen moon. He replied, I'm so happy. Let's keep sharing our worlds. Send more stories of Europa, and you tell me of Earth. Mara nodded, smiling so wide that Kai thought he could see her laughter through the screen. After the call ended, Kai returned to the hydroponic bay. He looked at the ferns and algae pods waiting for their next journey. He felt something new, hope anchored deep in his chest. No matter how far apart they were, human ingenuity, friendship, and hope could bridge any distance. Under the pale Jupiter glow, Kai planted new algae spores, ready to send more light and life to the friend he missed so dearly. Joran stood on the sunlit balcony of the Helios Orbital Lab, watching Mercury's pale surface glow beneath him. Every morning he came here, hoping to feel closer to his friend Nadia. She had moved to the Venus floating colony 6 months ago to study the clouds. Joran missed her voice and her fearless spirit. He felt a heavy sadness in his chest. Inside the lab's control room, Joran listened to the hum of cooling fans and the hiss of solar panel actuators. He tried to focus on work mapping solar flare patterns, but his mind wandered back to Nadia's laughter. He opened his pad and stared at her name. His thumb hovered over call, but he backed away. What would he say? That night Joran lay in his cabin, staring at the holoscreen above his bed. It showed a live feed of the Venusian clouds, orange and gold in endless waves. Nadia had sent it once with the note, "Wish you were here." He watched the clouds drift and felt a pang of longing. He wanted to feel connected, but he did not know how. The next day, Joran went to the lab's engineering bay. He studied the solar wind collectors, massive loops of wire that harvested charged particles. An idea sparked. What if he could turn the solar wind itself into music? He could capture the flutter of particles and map them to sound frequencies. Then he could send Nadia a song made by Mercury's sun.jor and spent 2 nights coding and soldering. He modified a particle sensor to record fluctuations in the solar wind. Then he designed software to translate that data into musical notes. Each gust became a chord, each spike a drum beat. He worked through dimmed red lights fueled by hope. This was his HFY, moment using human ingenuity to turn raw data into art. On the 3rd night, Joran tested the system. He pointed the sensor toward the sun and watched the console fill with graphs. He pressed play, and a gentle melody filled the bay, a rising trill of violin-like notes, a steady heartbeat of bass. The song shimmered like sunlight on water. Joran closed his eyes, feeling the music weave through him. He recorded the song and attached a short video, images of Mercury's surface, his lab, and finally his own face smiling shyly. He said, "For you, Nadia, a song of our sun." Then he launched the file through the lab's come-up link to the Venus relay satellites. He watched the progress bar creep forward. When it reached 100%, he exhaled and felt light for the first time in weeks. The next day, Joran waited by the terminal. He tinkered with instruments but checked the feed every hour. When the console pinged with an incoming file, his heart raced. He opened it. First, he saw Nadia's wide eyes on the holoscreen. Behind her, the golden aerostat glowed against endless clouds. She smiled and raised her hand. Then the music began. Nadia's eyes closed as she heard the melody, the solar wind, transformed into sound. She whispered, "Joran, this is beautiful. I've never heard anything like it." She held up a small device playing the song on her end. "It feels like the sun is singing to me." Joran's chest warmed. He replied, I wanted to share our star's voice with you. I missed you. Nadia nodded, tears in her eyes. Now, I feel you here with me, she paused. Let's make this our ritual. Every month, send me a new solar song. I'll send you a Venus breeze song in return. Over the next weeks, Joran and Nadia exchanged living music. Joran captured solar wind melodies. Nadia recorded the soft hum of Venusian winds against her colony's hull. They built a growing library of star and cloud symphonies. Their creative exchange brought smiles to other crew members who gathered in the lab to listen. Music became a human bridge across space. One evening, Joran stood on the balcony again. He pressed play on his holopad and let Nadia's breeze song fill the air. The gentle rhythm and soft sighs of wind reminded him of her presence. He closed his eyes and imagined her laughter. The sadness in his chest finally eased, placed by a steady hope. Joran smiled and whispered to the passing solar flare, "Thank you." He realized that no matter how far apart they were, human creativity and friendship could turn empty space into shared joy. His HFY spirit had built a new path, a song that carried his heart across millions of kilometers to the friend he missed so dearly. Sierra floated in the dim glow of the Europa Station's recreation pod, tracing shapes on the overhead holoscreen. Outside, the thick glass moonlight danced on icy waves. She pressed a hand to her helmet's inside surface, imagining her sister. Lena standing beside her in the same spot, but hundreds of millions of kilometers away. Lena lived on Earth again, after graduating from the academy. Sierra missed her laugh, her gentle teasing, and the way she always knew just when Sierra felt tired or lonely. Now Sierra felt empty where Lena once stood. Every day, Sierra tried to fill her time with station chores. She scrubbed algae tanks, calibrated life support monitors, and ran data scans on Jupiter's magnetosphere. She sent Lena short messages, "Good morning, how was dinner?" But replies trickled in later, not at all. When she asked longer questions, Lena's answers stayed brief. Sierra stared at the ComPad screen, then shut it off, frustrated by the silence. She did not know how to reach her sister's heart across such a vast distance. One evening, Sierra took off her helmet and stepped into the hydroponics bay. Rows of glowing kelp and crimson moss swayed in clear tanks. She sighed, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Lena had loved plants. As children, they had tended their garden together, sharing sunrise tea among bright flowers. Sierra closed her eyes and felt a burst of grief. But a thought sparked. What if she could send Lena something living, a small piece of Europa's life, to surprise her on Earth? That night, Sierra sketched plans on her holopad. She would create tiny seed pods filled with Europa's engineered moss spores. Each pod would carry a note carved in a glass bead, "For Lena, our garden in the stars." She would hitch the pods to a supply rocket bound for Jupiter Station, which made regular deliveries back to Earth's orbit. Then Lena could plant the spores in her own windowsill and watch a piece of Sierra's world grow. Over the next 3 days, Sierra worked late in the lab. She sterilized glass beads and engraved each one with her neat handwriting. She mixed moss spores with nutrient gel, then gently sealed them into the pods. She programmed a small tracker into the rockets. Cargo manifests so she could check when the pods launched and arrived. Each step felt like weaving a thread across space. Sierra's heart lifted with hope. This was her HFY, moment using human creativity to connect life and love over millions of kilometers. On launch day, Sierra carried the containers to the loading bay. The silver rocket stood ready under bright floodlights. She handed her pods to the cargo officer and watched as they were strapped into place. "Safe travels," she whispered. The engines ignited, and the rocket rose, leaving a trail of steam and hope behind it. Back in her cabin, Sierra checked the come-up link for arrival data. Time crawled. She tended the algae tanks, ran diagnostics, and paced the narrow room. The tracker pinged. Pods arrived in Earth's orbit cargo bay. Sierra's chest tightened. Next, the pods would be sent to Lena's address, but Sierra did not know how soon. She stared at the glass beads, imagining Lena's surprise. A week later, Sierra received a single photo file. Her hands trembled as she opened it. In the image, Lena stood by a bright window in their childhood home. She wore an apron splashed with soil, and on the sill sat small pots with green moss sprouting. Each plant had a tiny glass bead hanging. From its stem, catching the sunlight, Sierra felt tears spill down her cheeks. Lena held one bead in her hand, and her smile was wide and radiant. Below the photo, Lena had written, "Thank you, Sierra. I found your gift today. The moss grows fast, strong, and bright. Every time I see it, I think of you. Let's Skype this weekend and watch our gardens together." Sierra's heart soared. She replayed the image again, feeling warm as solar panels and sunlight. That weekend, Sierra floated into the rec pod and opened the holocom channel. Lena's face appeared, framed by green vines and morning light. Sierra laughed, and Lena laughed back. They showed each other their plants, Sierra's crimson moss still glowing in its tanks, and Lena's new green sprouts bathed in Earth's sunlight. They talked for hours about station life, Earth's spring weather, and the next experiment Sierra planned for her algae bay. As they spoke, Sierra felt the distance shrink. Each shared story and each reflected leaf in their gardens wove them closer together. Sierra realized that no matter how far Lena had moved, her human spirit, her warmth, curiosity, and love could bridge any void. Under Europa's icy skies and Earth's bright sun, their connection grew like living light. When the call ended, Sierra stayed in the rec pod a moment longer, staring at the holoscreen. She felt not empty, but full of hope, full of sisterly love, and full of pride in what human hearts could achieve. She whispered, "Thank you, Lena," then turned and walked back to her algae tanks, ready to nurture new life and new connections across the stars. Ravi stood on the dusty surface of the moon's sea of tranquility, staring up at the glittering shape of the lunar orbital colony. His sister Mira had moved there to work as a medical officer 3 months ago. Every time he looked at the colony, his chest tightened. He missed Mira's easy smile and her comforting voice. Back on the moon base, the corridors felt empty, without her laughter. During the day, Ravi tried to focus on his duties. He calibrated solar panels, monitored life support systems, and guided supply rovers across the regolith. Yet his thoughts drifted to Mira. He picked up the base's cum tablet and typed "Hi, Mira," then deleted it. He stared at the blank screen, unsure what to say that would reach her busy life above. Late one night, Ravi walked to the bases hangar and looked at the small cargo drones lined up for orbital runs. An idea lit his mind. He could send Mira a message carried by drones. He would decorate each drone with glowing panels and program them to fly in formation around the colony's docking bay. The light show would spell out his words, "I miss you." It felt bold and human, exactly the kind of hopeful act he needed. Over the next 2 days, Ravi worked nonstop. He rewired the drones with bioluminescent paint he had made from algae cultures in the hydroponics lab. He coded flight paths that traced words and hearts in the low lunar orbit. When he struggled with the programming, his fellow engineers stepped in to help. They showed him how to adjust the flight controls for precise movements. Ravi felt pride and joy, humans working together, using creativity and skill to connect hearts across space. Launch night arrived. The sky was clear, stars shining like distant fires. Ravi carried a portable launcher to the southern slope and set up his console. He watched the drones lift off one by one, their painted panels glowing soft green. Climbed, he triggered the formation script. For a moment, the night sky was empty, then the lights blinked into life. They formed letters above the colony, MEERA, "I miss you." Below that, they blossomed into a heart shape that pulsed 3 times. Back in the colony, Mira stepped onto her balcony with a gasp. She grabbed her cum tablet and sent a message, "I see you." On the base terminal, Ravi's tablet pinged. He opened the video link and saw Mira's face, eyes wide with surprise and delight. Behind her, the colony's lights reflected the drone's glow. "Ravi," she said, voice trembling, "that was beautiful. I never thought I would see a message like that out here." Ravi felt tears sting his eyes. "I wanted you to know how much I care," he replied. "I missed you every day." Mira smiled, and for a moment the distance between them vanished. She pointed to her balcony, where she had arranged small lights of her own. They spelled out, "Love you, bro." Avi laughed with relief. "Let's make this a monthly event," she suggested. "I'll send my own light show back to you." In the days that followed, Ravi and Mira exchanged ever more intricate sky messages. Ravi experimented with shapes lunar rovers, moons, little astronauts. Mira replied with patterns of colored light set against the colony's domes. Their friends and co-workers looked forward to each show, gathering outside to watch the night sky fill with glowing art. Through these shared moments, Ravi felt his sadness fade and his hope grow stronger. One evening, as Ravi watched the drone spell out, "See you soon," he realized how human hope and invention could bridge any distance. Even across hundreds of kilometers of space, his sister and he remained close in heart. He shut off his console and walked back into the base under a sky full of stars, certain that no matter how far apart they were, they're bonded. The brilliance of human creativity would keep them calm.